XJS Polymer Nosed Expansion Joint System. Installation Guide. 1. Cutting asphalt. Cutting asphalt either side of the expansion joint gap. Saw cut the asphalt deck overlay to the full depth of the asphalt, wide enough to allow for the SIL-SPEC 900 PNS headers to be placed either side of the expansion joint gap. 2. Removing asphalt. All asphalt must be removed from the blockout. Remove the asphalt to expose the concrete deck and scabble the concrete to remove any asphalt residue. Once the bulk of the asphalt has been removed, you can measure and cut the formwork for use later in the process. Make sure to remove all asphalt and any other loose material. 3. Sandblasting. Sweep out the blockout, remove any loose material prior to grit blasting. Clean the blockout thoroughly. Once all loose materials have been removed, commence grit blasting. 4. Cleaning. Cleaning the blockout and forming the joint gap. Sweep the area and blow out the blockout thoroughly. Remove all loose particles and dust that could prevent the adhesion of the SIL-SPEC 900 PNS material. While SIL-SPEC 900 PNS can tolerate some moisture, the blockout should be as dry as possible. Place the formwork in the middle of the blockout to form the expansion joint gap at the desired width. Use tape to create a clean edge. 5. Mixing. Mixing the SIL-SPEC. SIL-SPEC 900 PNS is made up from 3 components. Part A, the white epoxy liquid, Part B, the black epoxy liquid, and Part C, the aggregate. SIL-SPEC 900 PNS can be supplied in either 14-litre bucket kits or 28-litre big kits. Method 1, 14-litre bucket kit. If using a 14-litre yield bucket kit, mix the 2 liquids together using a mixing paddle on a 2-handed Festo mixer or similar tool. Add the aggregate slowly while mixing. Make sure both Part A and Part B liquids are completely emptied. You can heat the tins up slightly to make mixing easier. Method 2, 28-litre big kit. If you're using the 28-litre big kits and a specialised mixer, pour both liquids into the mixer. Once fully combined, pour in the 2 bags of aggregate reasonably quickly and let the mixer do the work. 6. Pouring. Placing the SIL-SPEC 900 PNS. Pour the SIL-SPEC 900 PNS into the blockout and pack it down firmly. SIL-SPEC 900 PNS is self-priming, but it needs to be pounded to coat the bottom of the blockout and ensure adhesion. Using a flat plate D-shaped trowel, pound down on the SIL-SPEC with your fist. Liquid coming to the surface indicates that the SIL-SPEC has been adequately compacted. Ensure that the SIL-SPEC 900 PNS is flush with the asphalt on both sides to ensure good ride quality over the joint. SIL-SPEC 900 PNS will take approximately 2 hours to cure, depending on the ambient and deck temperatures of the blockout. If you're in a cold environment, decrease curing time by keeping the joint warm, covering with hoods and blowing warm air over it. Do not heat up the joint with a direct naked flame, as this will cause a brittle crust to form. Let SIL-SPEC 900 PNS cure before progressing. 7. Preparation for silicon sealant 902 RCS. Once the SIL-SPEC 900 PNS is cured, remove the formwork. Using an angle grinder, grind the edges of the gap to form a chamfer. The gap must be completely dry and free from dust and grit. Grit blast the sides of the joint gap to give a clean, pitted surface for the sealant to bond to. Blow all dust and blasting grit out of the gap and ensure it is completely dry before applying the primer. Using a small paintbrush, paint the Dow Corning P5200 primer on both sides of the gap and allow it to dry completely. Choose a backer rod that is larger in diameter than the width of the gap to ensure a tight fit. Push the rod into the gap so that the top is 25 mm below the running surface of the joint. 8. Installing the 902 RCS silicon sealant. Connect the silicon installation gun to a compressor and fit a spiral mixing tip. Open the barrels and place 1 part A and 1 part B silicon sausage into the barrels. Cut off the tops and close the barrels of the gun. Point the mixing tip into the gap. Pour the sealant into the gap so it sits 12 mm below the surface. The sealant is self-leveling and rapid curing. As the sealant is self-leveling and forms a skin almost immediately, you don't need to touch it with a trowel. If the sealant is a bit low, you can go back and top up sections within 5 to 10 minutes of originally pouring the sealant. The job is now complete. Traffic can be reopened the same day. For more details and downloadable product guides, visit granor.com.au.